Welcome to another episode of Not That Hard to Homeschool, the podcast for real people so that you can confidently, competently, and yes, even contentedly provide the high school education that is best for your teens and your family. I'm your host, Lisa Neary from NotThatHardToHomeschool.com.
This is Gina for Lisa at It's Not That Hard to Homeschool, and this is part 2 of Not Your Mama's Education. You can listen to the previous podcast for part 1 and be sure and stay tuned for part 3.
And some toughness. Okay, so I'm going to just share how online education can help your kids with the 4 C's of education right now. I'm going to start with communication because this is the number one soft skill employers are looking for in new hires. They might not have all the technical skills of the job, but if they can communicate really, really well, they are going to move up faster. They're going to have more opportunities available to them than kids who can't. So communication skills, one of the easiest, best ways to develop your kids' communication skills is by helping them learn a second language, because that's going to help them develop an appreciation for cultures, clarify their own language, and give them the ability to communicate cross-culturally, whatever that might look like. I like Latin as a way to start with because there's a lot of moving parts to Latin and it teaches critical thinking skills at the same time. Plus, we use 15,000 anglicized Latin words. So whenever I start my Latin 1 class, I tell the kids, you guys are already speaking Latin. You just don't even realize it. So it's a fun language to learn. Again, if they can learn Latin, they can learn so many other things. And they have that sense of accomplishment because everybody thinks Latin is hard. And it's not hard. My son, who taught Latin for us for several years, said, it's just like Legos with language. So if I think it's a really great language to start with because, again, it teaches kids how to learn a second language, and it also teaches them about English grammar in a way that is just going to blow your socks off. So if you take Latin, you don't need a grammar class. But I think the best way to learn a second language is with a live teacher. Now, I have 5 kids. We homeschool for 30 years. And my oldest and my youngest both had second language under their belt when they graduated. My oldest was pretty fluent in ASL, and she could hold her own in Romanian. My youngest daughter is fluent in Hebrew, and she can hold her own in Spanish. And the way that they did that was my oldest daughter was part of a deaf Bible study and then went to Romania and was just immersed in the culture. My youngest daughter's taken Hebrew for several years from Rabbi Fisher at True North Homeschool Academy. She got a chance to meet him last year when she went to Israel. And she's taken Spanish for several years. She's also really figured out how to study languages. So that's really a goal of hers. But I would say having a live online teacher or being in an immersive experience made all the difference between just playing with a foreign language and really digging down and learning it. And if your kids are bilingual, especially in an Asian language, they can write their ticket to whatever job and basically even tell them how much they want. If they have a critical language, that's going to be really super helpful to them. And then Spanish, there's more Spanish speakers in the world than English speakers. So I would just say having a live teacher where you actually have a text and they also have the opportunity to speak and hear the foreign language is going to make all the difference for them as they develop communication skills. And then excellent writing skills. Like, it doesn't matter what job you're in, your kids need to know how to write really, really well. And that means it needs to be logical because good writing is always good thinking. Beth and I have both taught writing for years and years. And honestly, I love teaching writing. I know Beth does too. It's such a joy to watch kids going from feeling not so sure about writing to really feeling confident. Like if you hand them a piece of paper and say, I want an essay on paper clips, they can just go, not a problem, and sit down and write an essay on paper clips. It's like, that's such a rush as a teacher, right? But if you don't feel confident about teaching your kids solid writing, hire it out, outsource it. Beth Purcell is one of the best writing teachers online I've ever experienced. And there's a whole different thing to teaching online than teaching in person too. So if you have a good co-op situation or whatever, that is great. But if you don't, check out the classes at True North Homeschool Academy because our writing instructors, they're top notch and they love teaching your kids this very basic skill. If they have some basic skills, they can knock the socks off of whatever job they're interviewing for. And that's what we're really committed to, helping your kids get marketable skills at True North Homeschool Academy, because we know that look, the world, there's a lot coming at our kids. They need to be able to stand firmly on both feet, heading true north all their days, but they're going to have a lot of voices coming at them. They're going to have a lot of things trying to knock them down. And so we're here to come alongside you so you can raise your kids up with truth, beauty, and goodness, and that they can really be leaders and moms and parents and solid citizens of the world in the United States as they grow older. Okay, so communication skills is number 1. Critical thinking skills is number 2. And your kids are probably honestly going to out math or out science or out history or out English you at some point. So both of my boys, I have 2 girls, 2 boys and a girl, both of my boys, my middle kids, they both got to the point about 8th grade where you could say a person, a time, or a place in the world, and they could talk for like an hour about it. Like if you said 1527, they could start telling you the kings and queens of Europe, and they could tell you what was going on in Asia. Like they just totally out historyed me. Like they love history. They have timelines memorized, and that's their passion. And they're both writers too, which I love. And hopefully that's going to be one of the great joys of your life as you homeschool, is that your kids are going to like go beyond you. They're going to stand on your shoulders and just outpace you. And that's really kind of such a fun thing to see them really soar in their gifts. But when they get to that point, what do? I mean, your kids can teach themselves, absolutely. But one of the things about high school is it's not just hours in that makes it a high school worthy class. It's the rigor of the class that makes it a high school level class. So your kids can teach themselves, but without a good feedback loop and without a good assessment loop, most students don't get better. And here's what I mean. Your brain gets better at what it does. So if your kids are playing games like video games all the time, they're going to get better at video games. But in reality, when they stand up from that video game, they haven't acquired new skills. Let's just be honest. They've leveled up, but they haven't done anything. And so the thing we get better at. So if your kids are writing and they're not getting a good assessment feedback loop with what they need to improve on, they're practicing poor writing skills. And that's why an assessment or a feedback loop is so very, very important at the high school level, because at the high school level, your kids should be able to start analyzing and synthesizing information and putting it together with other different subject areas. So science and the Bible should start coming together for them, history and English and all those kind of things. And if you don't feel competent to do it yourself, this is a good time to outsource it. Okay. And a lot of people are worried about how to pay for online education or how to pay for a teacher or a tutor or whatever. But one thing I have found, and look, inflation is a real thing. I went grocery shopping when we got back from Texas, and I was like, wow, we didn't even buy anything. And it was like literally probably 40% more than what we paid for several months before. So I get inflation is a real thing. Education is the transmission of culture. And if you gyp your kids on education, you are setting them up to really struggle in life. So however you can prioritize your kids' education, you're really helping them understand the culture that you value, and you're setting them up for success. So that's always been one thing that we've really invested in, is education in our life. And I just want to encourage you guys to do the same. Of course, I want you to buy True North Homeschool Academy classes. Ours are the best. I think we have amazing teachers, but whatever you guys need to do, I'm just saying, find somebody who can help your kids go to that next level of thought process and critical thinking skills, and help them learn to analyze and synthesize information. Now, I just did a presentation on how to homeschool elementary school. And one of the things I found in my research is that in public schools, a lot of kids are saying, a lot of teachers and schools districts are saying, in the digital age, your elementary school student needs to be able to analyze and synthesize information. Look, developmentally inappropriate. Your elementary kid is in concrete operations. They don't have those thinking skills or tools or brain space yet. Doesn't even make sense for them as elementary kids, but absolutely in high school, they need to be thinking deeply. They need to be putting things together and strategizing in ways that you haven't even thought of, because they should just be surpassing you in some areas. So that's one of the things that I love about our teaching staff at True North Homeschool Academy. We have a PhD in molecular biology teaching our upper level science classes, and a professional weatherman on board now too. One of our history teachers worked at high levels of public policy in Washington, D.C. He's been on CNN and the Senate floor, and he's read every Senate brief since the 80s. And he pushes kids to think broadly and deeply. My kids have said about Adam Pruzan that he is one of those teachers that literally changed their life. My son just graduated from college and got his first professional degree or first professional job. And one of the people he called was Adam Pruzan, who he had as a teacher in high school. I mean, those are the kind of teachers we have at True North Homeschool Academy. So if you don't take classes at True North, find some place with those kind of teachers who are going to invest in your kids and help them go farther, faster. Because if you find, look, since 2020, there's so much talent available now because people realize that they could sit home in their pajamas and teach online, right? Like we don't do that at True North until we get dressed, but your kids are able to rub elbows at a very young age with experts in their fields. That's pretty crazy. Dr. Kristen Moon was in a research lab doing molecular biology research. She's teaching our kids biology, A&P, chemistry, physics. Beth Purcell has done a lot of writing and editing over the years. She's willing to teach her kids how to write really well. Julia Jinks wrote for HGTV and she teaches writing for us. I mean, that's the level of teaching talent we have at True North Homeschool Academy. So if not us, find another place with that level of talent because it's available and your kids really deserve it. Because again, they need to be competitive. They're going to be competing in a global market. Okay. The third C of education is collaboration, and this means can you work together in a group? And with online education, your kids interact with everybody. Like we live in the middle of Timbuktu. I tell everybody we live, okay, go to the end of the middle of nowhere and then go 2 miles past that. That's where I live in South Dakota. I mean, like we have to drive to get anywhere, right? But my kids have been in classes with kids around the world. And that has been so fun for them because so in the Hebrew class, one of the first things they do is how's the weather? So they have this great compare and contrast thing going on every single week. And it's just such a great way for your kids to realize that their life isn't the be all and end all, that there's other people who have concerns and joys around the world. And it's so good for their development, just socially and spiritually. Collaboration. Our entrepreneurship class has kids working together on Shark Tank projects, and they have to present those projects to sharks. This was a super fun project. I was one of the sharks last spring, which made me so happy. So these kids, they got dressed professionally, and they had a spokesperson for their group project and everything, and they presented their project. And one of the groups, they developed an app. Now, they didn't talk about developing an app. They literally developed the app. And I was like, how did you guys even know to develop an app? There's a free app developer. Who knew? They did. So these are kids all over the country working together to create new tech. Oh my gosh, this is reimagining education right here. It was just so super fun to see that they had PowerPoint presentations. They made little commercials with videos and sound and the whole thing. Some of our students have gotten together in the summertime and gone to camps together or visited each other. We've been able to meet several families as we've traveled doing conferences and stuff. And I love that so much because the world can be scary and bleak. And when you meet people, you realize that people are just people around the world and you have friends around the world and your kids are feeling more anxious and alone than ever before since 2020. And this gives them a sense of connection. And True North, we actually require the cameras to be on because we want to get to know the kids and we want to make sure, for one, they're not running laps around the house outside, but also we want to get to know them and we want them to get to know the other students in class. Okay, the fourth C of education is creativity. Look, Mama, you are one person and you can't get it all done on your own. I homeschooled 5 kids for 12 years each, usually 6 subjects a year. That is 360 classes in multiple subject areas. And look, the things I'm good at, public speaking, writing, creativity, PowerPoints, my kids are rock stars at. So for one of my son who just graduated, he went and did an interview. And part of his interview was standing up in a room full of 300 people and giving a speech. And he had those people in tears. And that is because that's my thing. I get it. That's my wheelhouse. I'm right there. Things like math and science, the hard sciences, that's my husband's bailiwick, but he has this pesky day job. And so we outsource some of that because you can't teach everything and you can't teach everything well. Some things your kids can learn themselves. But I'll tell you, my second son, he just got to a point in math. I couldn't help him. We hired a private tutor at that point for trig and pre-calc, and he went on to get a math minor and went through Calc 4 at the university. Now, if we hadn't done that in high school, he never would have felt confident enough to get that math minor. And so I feel like sometimes we just need to put our money where our mouth is and say, you know what, this is beyond me, but I see that you have this talent or skill or interest, and we're going to put what it takes to get you to the next step. And so anyway, creativity. Our online teachers, we do a lot of assessments. We do projects, papers, presentations, PowerPoints, breakout rooms, whiteboards, etc. My daughter researched a foreign country, Venezuela, actually, several years ago for Spanish 1. She created a PowerPoint presentation, wrote the PowerPoint presentation in English, and then translated it to Spanish and presented it in Spanish. That's one of the projects for Spanish 1. She's still referring back to that project. Now, believe me, if we'd been doing Spanish 1 at home, I would not have done that project with her because I would have been like, get your stuff done. I just don't have the bandwidth for everything. So outsourcing is one of the ways that we can just instill some more creativity into our homeschooling. And we get the benefit of utilizing other people's time, talent, and energy, and maximizing our homeschooling in ways that literally reimagine education. The last thing, and this is not one of the 4 C's of education, but ongoing relationships. And I've already told you how some of my kids have ongoing relationships with teachers that they met at True North Homeschool Academy. My daughter got to meet Rabbi Fisher last year in Israel, and she's taken Hebrew from him for 4 years. And they just have this really beautiful relationship of all these years of working together. And that was the highlight of one of her trip to Israel, honestly, is to meet him. And so I just think it's so important for your kids to have relationships outside your home. Homeschooling can still even now be feeling a little isolated. And when you have an online school that you have partnered with, you have relationships outside of yourself that could speak really beautiful things in your kids' lives. Okay, so that was a lot of information, but utilizing the SAMR method and realizing a bit about the current situation we're in, online education just makes sense, whether you use it for one class or many. And I just want to say, at True North Homeschool Academy, we are not perfect. We love feedback from our families. We're constantly tweaking and I've just got this whole series of training for the teachers that we're going to just start this coming week. But we really work to honor the trust that our families place in us. We try to be your trusted academic partner because we realize that the world has just a lot coming at everybody right now. We know that you need somebody on your team. So we offer over 140 classes, including all core classes, math, science, history, English, 6 foreign languages, including Latin, Spanish, French, German, ASL, and Hebrew, and marketable electives, including classes every kid should take in high school, whether you take it from us or somewhere else, and that's entrepreneurship and career exploration. Because again, your kids need to realize what their skills are and interests are, because they're going to be working in jobs that might not even exist anymore. So I want to offer you a code. It's EDU5, and that's 5% off store-wide classes. You can stack it with our Buy More, Save More, or military ministry discount. And we'd love to partner with you this coming year as you're looking at homeschooling your family. Also, I just want to share with you, you can check out our printables section at True North Homeschool Academy. It's True North Homeschool Academy. And we have curriculum planning sheets, personalized learning plans, log sheets, and tons of free information for you over there, including a couple of escape rooms that are super fun. Lots of cool things over there. So check out True North Homeschool Academy and go to the printables section, and you can find lots of stuff to download for free. So you guys, if you have any questions, I would love to answer your questions. Beth's here too to take questions. So I'm just going to offer that out there for you, Beth. But yeah, if you guys have any questions about what we do at True North or what I just shared with you, I'd love to chat.